Okay, so you'll see what I've done here in the preliminary sketches that I've actually changed a few things from the reference photos. So added in a few trees here on the side. Not exactly sure how I'm going to get these in at the end, but I'm going to see if I can get some kind of getting smaller down the back, maybe casting a shadow to the right hand side of the scene. I've also changed some of these buildings. I've simplified them down. I know there's a lot more going on in there, but I don't think it really adds much to the painting. I've moved a little kind of water tank here to the front and just a few houses here, but apart from that, the mountains, the general shape, I've kept those in. So we're going to give this a go. There's some figures as well I thought I'd add to just bring some more interest into the scene. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm firstly going to be just picking up a light wash of blue. So let's just grab a bit of this color. This is really just some ultramarine, a little bit of cobalt actually, cobalt blue. So we'll mix that up and go ahead and drop that into the sky like that. Might also grab myself some of this cerulean blue. I think this will just mix down with that sky. Really the goal is to just get in a very light wash to the sky. It doesn't have to be really dark, especially as we go down. We want to be decreasing the strength of this wash. So just going and bringing this wash all the way down. I've got a mop brush here. This is a kind of synthetic mop brush I got a long time ago. So what I'm doing is just playing around with this wash a bit, and changing the consistency as well as I go up. I've just added in a little bit more darkness to the top of the painting and have some areas which are a little bit more blue than others as well. I think that's important because it gives the rest of the painting that sense of transparency and lightness, especially down the bottom. So I'm going to bring this wash all the way down to where these mountains are here. So the trick is to just get in the sides like that. Okay, so kind of around the area where they touch the sky. From that point on, I'm actually just going to pop in some kind of dark colors on top. But before that happens, and I want to just get in a little bit of color for the house, just the roofs anyway. So I'm using some yellow ochre, and I'm just going to drop that in to some parts of the house. I think just the roof should be fine. So just mixing up a bit of this warmer color. I'll drop this into the roof like that there, and also just soften these sides a bit down like that here. What I want to do is just get a kind of softer, warmer color just running through the scene. I've added in a bit of yellow ochre there, that, some of these little houses like that there, and I want to darken some areas of the sky, just add in some clouds running through this mix. So I'll just mix up a bit of purplish sort of color and get in some indications of clouds in here, and really just making sure that it is dark enough to indicate like that, but not too dark, because again I don't want it to just detract from the rest of the painting. But having some clouds and having some sharper looking clouds as well through here is going to help, in my opinion, to create a bit more interest in the painting. I'll just try to join up these two cloud shapes that. A bit more darkness in some of them. Side of the brush. I'm just going to use that there. And really, apart from that, I'm just going to leave that as it is. Now, for this section here, I'm going to pick up some of this cobalt blue, maybe a teeny bit of red mixed in with there, and drop that straight in to this section. A bit more red, I want it to be more kind of purplish. And the idea is just to get in a soft shape to these kind of mountains in the background. Going in now, I've let it kind of settle, the colour settle before for a little bit so that it just doesn't spread all too much. And also I'm hoping to get some more sharper edges in areas too, just to keep things varied. So that's looking all right. Add some more water underneath here and paint. Okay. And really at this point I don't need to go back into this section. I'm going to get in some mountains on top, just a little bit darker than the background mountains. So just bring it down a little bit further, but your second set of mountains are just this sort of area around here. So we're going to get in some kind of wet on dry later once this is finished, but bring it down to a point where you kind of are happy with those background mountains, and let it sort of settle and fade in to the sky. Let it do its thing. What I'm going to do, I've got a round brush in here. It's a number 8 round brush, and I'm going to start getting in some little details for the trees. So some sap green here, and what I'm doing is just getting some darker, some lighter kind of green colors running through for these little trees. There's some in the background here, especially near to the houses and things like that. And the reason why is because later on, when we go through and get the background mountains, we can cut around some of these trees and do a bit of negative painting. So I'm not going to leave all of them in like this, but I like to have that option if I do decide to have some kind of lighter tree shapes, that kind of thing. Okay, so looking at how things are, I'm liking that at the moment. So just adding in some green here as well, maybe another tree shape there. Get this one going up a bit further. Have some little ones here in the background, but really just a little bit is fine. We don't want to go overboard here. Okay. Fantastic. Now I'm thinking down the front we're going to get in a nice sort of yellowish colour, yellowish and green, but I'll give this a quick dry first so we can get that second layer of mountains in. Use a flat brush, so using a larger flat brush, this is a 3/4 inch. I think I'll start with this. We'll start with this one, and I'm going to be using a mixture of green and a little bit of blue just mixed in there as well. So I want it to be darker in the background. So this color just needs to be essentially darker than this blue that we've already put in, and also want it to be more kind of greenish. So we're going to give this a little try, and I'm going to swap in between this kind of round brush here and also the flat brush. Okay, so pop in these this set of mountains, and I'm going to do some cutting around here like that. Oops, gone down a bit too far here for the house, but it's no big deal. We can just go through like that, and here we go. A bit of cutting around. Really important to get this sharp edge on the house there. So you know, I've got also a smaller flat brush. This is number 12 flat brush, which I can play around with too. This. There we go. There. And a little bit of cutting around. Darkness around here. There. Like I said, we don't have to leave all these trees in the background, but it does help to have some of these negatively painted in anyway. I think it's just makes things look a little bit more interesting, varied up. So got another bit here that I need to focus on. So just to get this roof in really sharp like that. And around here there's a tree there as well. There is a house in here. Thinking we probably want to end it off around there, like that, and start again here, and continue working on this section there. A little bit of cutting around again. That. Again, this is a house that I'm just indicating, a building. Who knows? And you know, we don't have to get it all in as well. You can do this sort of thing where you just leave bits of white on the paper like that. So don't feel like you have to paint everything in. Okay, fantastic. Get that roof of this house, whatever it is, could be a shack, just has to be a square like that. Okay, fantastic. Leave that background in, and now what I'm going to do is the foreground, and I want to be pretty loose, so I'm picking up a mop brush here, and I want it to have kind of yellow ochre base, maybe with a bit of cadmium yellow in as well, and also a bit of greens. And I want to make it pretty light and get a tiny bit of blending going on with that background, hopefully. I think it might be a little late now, but we'll see how it goes. Some tiny bit of cutting around with the figures like that. You know, just defining that bottom part of the house there as well. Right. There we go. Oops. So there is a figure here. I've cut around this guy. A bit of that house there. There. Okay. And we might add in some sap green to this mix as well. A bit more water and mix up some sap green nice bright green to drop into this area. Greenish kind of yellow mix coming down the page. Okay, so bring that all the way down to the bottom. Like that. And near the bottom as well, this is where I, just add in a bit of brown or mixture in here too. Darken up the front of the painting a teeny bit. Okay. What I want to do is just start adding in some of these little crop lines that I drew in before to add in that sense of perspective. So I'm picking up some green, mixing it with some blue to darken it down. This is just a bit of cobalt blue mixed in with some sap green, like that. It has to be, not too dark, but fairly dark, so that when you touch onto the paper, it will stay. And no parts of it have already dried, but we'll give it a go. Let's start off around here, like that. So I'm just generally getting in a few of these little lines, like that. Starting off at the back there. There we go, another one, there, like that, there, maybe one coming through like that. That's all you pretty much need. You don't need to keep going over it, and I'm just changing up a few things here to make it a little more obvious near the foreground, a little bit darker there. Okay, and for the most part, we're pretty much good to go. So I'm happy with how that is looking at the moment, and really the point now is just leaving it to kind of dry off. So I will actually speed up this process a bit by using the hairdryer once again. So now what I'm going to do now is start to add some darker sections to the house. So I've got a little flat brush here, and I'm going to use some neutral tint just mixed in with some blue. Okay, so just a kind of darker blue color, and remember the light's coming in from the left hand side, so I'm just going to get in sort of darker shape here for the side of the house, and move that down like that. There. Okay, so something like that. This side of the house, I'm just going to get darker underneath here. Some darkness there. The rooftop, I do want to darken up a little bit as well. I'm going to use just a little more red in this mix so that it stays warm. So let's have a try of that. Okay. Darken that up a little. Okay. This house here, I am actually going to get that in a little darkness as well. So just underneath here, like that. Okay. See if we can add in some windows and things like that on the houses as well. A bit of neutral tint. Let's just add in a door or something like that here. That window or something there. Just on the side of it. We can go for this one as well. Just a few little bits and pieces like that. Shadows. The sides of the building, underneath the roof here. Couple here which I'm just going to darken off at the bottom with that. There. Okay. Let's have a look at what else we want to do. So on this side here, a bit of brown, and I'm going to get in some trunks of these trees. Indication like that. There. Right. Some colours for these figures, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up some blue for this guy. It's just a bit of ultramarine, not ultramarine, sorry, a bit of cerulean blue. For the other person, I think I'll go with some red, just a bit of a reddish colour like that. Same with this person here. Oops, made his shoulders too big. Their heads in. And some legs. So the guy standing around this side, and again just some indication of a shadow coming to the right hand side of these figures like that. I think will be helpful. Underneath the houses as well, just some shadow like that. There's a water tank there which I will get in some small details. There we go. This little shadow on the ground behind underneath the house helps to kind of anchor it there to the ground. Fantastic. Really here's the opportunity also to add in some darker trees and things like that here in the distance. So little round brush like this does wonders really. You get some nice tree shapes just by touching your brush onto the paper. So just trying to do that here to indicate some shapes, especially behind this house here. So if you want to get in a tree or a tree shape like this, it really helps just draw out the shape of the house. You can do it in a few different areas. Just a little technique that I've learned. That you don't have to do it everywhere. Larger brush here, and I'm going to get in some shadows and some larger tree shapes coming in from the left hand side. You know, we can just add in these little bits of shadows for that tree, but we decided early on, well, I decided early on anyway, that I wanted to have a sort of tree shape coming in from the side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This is pretty thick paint that I'm using, and the tree just going up into the sky like that. We can have another one maybe coming out here, that. Okay, and another one here. That. I think we could have another one just sort of coming through this section like that. Really mindful as well not to overdo it. Okay, and what I want to do is get in a little bit of shadow, kind of like a darker shadow that just runs across here, and I'm going to be picking up some kind of cooler color, really like a bluish kind of color here. I'm going to drop that in, get it to mix a little bit with these tree shapes, but really just get this in like that. And at the same time kind of leaving these little rows above that. So just a little bit of this going on. There's some darker spots in here as well. Like that. Just putting in some birds. Okay. Bit of white gouache. and draw out the figures more. Do also things like getting in some branches like this with the trees off in the distance. As you know, like kind of darker spots like that, it helps keep things a bit more interesting. But just don't do it everywhere, just in little spots here and there. You'll be fine. Okay, we'll leave it as that. Check out these tutorials down the side here. I've got a couple of playlists that will help you get some ideas and improve your watercolors.